I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I'm transgender, and I'm an athlete. Now I wake up every day and I have to make sure that I make it home alive. Just existing is resistance.
Mainstream media hasn't learned anything and is still pushing radical trans activism and calling it journalism. Up first, like I mentioned, we're going to go over a really strange interview that CNN just did with transgender athlete Cece Telfer, who is a trans woman, aka biologically male, and is a high-level track and field athlete who actually became the first trans athlete to win a Division II championship. Cece now hopes to compete in the Olympics, but probably won't be able to do so because of the Trump administration's policies that restrict women's sports to only biological females. Now, you might have hoped that this interview would offer some serious scrutiny and pushback, or explore the questions about the trans athlete debate with some nuance, but instead, predictably, it just turned into kind of a sob story hour for this trans athlete, with the journalist just basically giving her the platform to pop off about her feelings and not really pushing back or asking any tough questions whatsoever. I know, you're stunned. You'll see what I mean when we get into the actual interview. Here's the first clip that kind of set the tone from the get-go.
Just tell us what it is like as a transgender woman in the United States at the moment.
Oh my gosh. So I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I'm transgender, and I'm an athlete. Each of my identities is a target, especially in America.
So literally the first words out of this trans activist's mouth were ridiculous self-victimization. Each of my identities is under attack. Athletes are under attack in America now? Seriously? Touch grass. What are you talking about? And Black people not under attack in America whatsoever. Yes, we're rolling back DEI stuff that was discriminatory and divisive, but Black people still have equal civil rights. Nobody is trying to change that. The Trump administration is not targeting Black people. And even women, there's a complicated debate to be had about some of the abortion stuff, but outside of that, there's never been a better time to be a woman in America than 2025. You could, I think, fairly say that trans identity and rights are under serious scrutiny and being rolled back right now, but in some cases that's for good reason, and the rest of this is just nonsense. Now I'm going to show you the next part of the interview, which gets truly hysterical and alarmist in the wildest way.
How has life changed, or has life changed since President Trump's inauguration?
I woke up every day and I face adversaries when I leave my house. Now I wake up every day and I have to make sure that I make it home alive. It's really sad to see people going out of their way to make it known that you don't belong here. But every day I wake up and I decide to go out and live my life proves that I do belong here. And just existing is resistance.
Bruh, existing is not resistance. Nobody cares that you go about and live your life in many ways presenting as a trans woman. I mean, some people care, and some people are genuinely nasty to trans people, particularly online, and I don't support that. But by and large, people just want fairness and preservation of women's sports for females. That's the issue here. And I'm sorry, but there is literally I don't care if it's your truth. It's not the truth. It's a product of your imagination. It is a hallucination that you are suddenly, from the day before inauguration to 2 days after it, now every time you walk outside and leave your house, you're somehow in danger or your life is at stake. That's not a thing. There is no sudden uptick in trans people being murdered. Whatever city you live in that you go and walk around in, it's the same neighbors. Nobody's coming after you now because Trump's in office. Like, it's just a ridiculous, hyperbolic, and alarmist thing, but you hear it from the trans activist community all the time. I've debunked their broader narrative. Trans people are not murdered at higher rates than regular Americans. In fact, Black trans people are murdered at a lower rate than non-trans Black people. And the part of this that frustrates me is, where is the journalist with any sort of pushback or follow-up saying, What do you mean your life is in danger? What are you talking about? Huh? Like, what's changed? Or what are you saying? What? Like, there's no attempt to elucidate any basis for this. Just nodding along what, like, oh, you're so stunning and so brave. That's not journalism, folks. That's PR. And not what you're supposed to do as the host of an ostensibly neutral television program. Now, here's another part of the interview where Cece had something interesting to say.
I've done nothing wrong but try to be a good member and contributing member of society. I pay my taxes, I go to school, I try to leave this world better than I came to it. So if the president doesn't see us, we'll make ourselves be seen and known with goodness and love, because that's all we have to offer.
So I had kind of mixed feelings on this because in one sense, Cece, and I'll get into another point that made me feel this way as well, but Cece does actually seem like a nice person in many ways. Like, she does come off positive, not hate-filled like many trans activists, but I don't think she understands. It may well be true that Cece has tried to be a good person and contribute to society, and I'm sure she does pay her taxes, but she has, whether she realizes it or not, done something wrong. She's competed in women's sports and won titles despite being biologically male. That is unfair to women. She has taken titles away and placing and other things from women. That is something wrong. That is something people feel is unjust and not fair. And I understand that you may be a good person in many ways, but that's the thing. It's not like, oh, everyone's just picking on me because woe is me, I'm a victim. No, you actually have done something to bring that scrutiny upon yourself. And if you want to defend it, that's fine. We can have that debate and that conversation, but don't act like everybody just decided to hate on you one day. Like, you're just going about life, minding your business, and all these mean people came after you. Like, no, you did go all the way and win a Division II championship in track and field in the female division, and you want to compete at the Olympics against women. You are doing something controversial, and that is why people are scrutinizing you, not just because they're all mean bullies or whatever. Now, here's another interesting part where Cece said she is interested in meeting with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
I am willing to sit down with the IOC, the USATF, the NCAA, with any of my international federations, even the Trump administration, Trump himself. If he wants to sit down with me and talk and have a human conversation and see me, because I feel as though social media is very loud, and to have a human sit across from you and have a conversation with them, it's very different. So I'm willing to have that conversation if they're willing to give me that chance.
What would you say to President Trump? What would your message be?
I need some explanation as to why you want to completely eradicate us from society when we've done nothing wrong.
Whoa, so there's a lot to unpack there. First, nobody wants to eradicate you in the sense of killing or eliminating. Trump certainly doesn't want that. I certainly don't want that. And people who disagree with trans women and women's sports don't want that. There are some people out there who talk about eradicating transgenderism from public life, like Michael Knowles, who I've debated. Even they, though, while I disagree with that, I think there always are going to be some genuinely transsexual people, and I'm happy for them to live their best lives as long as we preserve, safety and fairness for everyone and women's only spaces. However, even those types, even the Michael Knowles, don't want trans people killed. They want to eradicate what they see as an ideology, not people. And so it's kind of a misnomer, and it's certainly not something Trump has said or done. So this is more alarmism here. However, I did appreciate what Cece said about wanting to meet with Trump and speak to him or his team and to give her side of the story and perspective. There is a willingness to have a conversation there that I appreciate that is absent from a lot of the radical trans activists who are like, no, I can't be, different ideas are violence. I can't platform. I can't be in the same room. That makes me unsafe, blah, 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 blah. I do appreciate seeing somebody not caught up in that BS and actually open to dialogue. But the problem is that when in broader clips of this interview, I watched the whole thing. I can't just play the whole thing for you guys. Cece basically said, like, well, if they just saw a day in my life, if they just understood my experience, my truth, then they would change their mind about this issue. And that's not true, because this isn't about any individual's personal experiences. It's about science. It's about biology. and it's about fairness and general rules. So while I did appreciate Cece's openness to dialogue or conversation, I did kind of think that she doesn't get it. Like, she's missing the point. It's not about your experiences as a personal individual. It's about general rules based in science and fairness and necessity. There was another interesting part of the interview where the CNN journalist actually asked Cece about potentially awards that she had won being taken away and erased from the historical records.
I wonder how you react, though, when you read that the Department of Education has written a letter to the NCAA suggesting that transgender women who have won titles and set records, they should be stripped.
If somebody's truly working or a part of the Department of Education, they would be smart and educated enough to know that something like that that's not how history works, and that's not how the direction of progressiveness works, and you can't take back history.
I gotta say, I have mixed feelings on this, because I do believe that women's sports should never have been open to trans women. It always should have been strictly sex segregated. And so I can see the argument that, like, that award should have gone to a biological woman, because that's what those sports were supposed to be about. But at the same time, while we can change the rules going forward, the rules at the time allowed Cece to compete, and she simply followed the rules and won. So can you then go and retcon who won, even though at the time that was allowed? That seems strange to me and also kind of unfair. So I feel like either way, it's kind of not fair and doesn't make a ton of sense. What do you guys think about that one? I'm kind of curious. I can't really make up my mind on that. But the more important point here is mainstream media has to stop serving as a stenographer for radical progressive activism, like this 80-20 issue where almost everyone agrees, like, biology, not identity, is how we need to separate sports. And yet, these activists just get platformed uncritically. And I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with speaking to these people. I've invited them onto my channel. They just don't come because they're not ready for that smoke. But I've invited radical fringe activists onto my channel many times. There's nothing wrong with speaking to them, but you can't just, if you're going to do journalism, especially, like, at least with me, I'm a biased commentator, right? I have my perspective. I'm giving you my opinion. But these CNN hosts are supposed to be neutral and unbiased, but they just kind of, like, roll out the carpet. Say, tell us your truth. Tell us your feelings. Tell us more about your fifis. And then just let the people pop off. Like, that is not journalism. Like I said before, that's public relations. You're in the wrong line of work if this is what you're going to do. And don't kid yourself that this is helping the LGBT community. No. This kind of radical take being uncritically parroted and associated with all LGBT people is exactly why support and acceptance is on the decline. The whole thing was maddening for all those reasons, and also because they just don't seem to be learning. They seem to continue to be doubling down on this, and that's just gobsmacking to me. Because there's so many signals and feedback mechanisms, from their ratings shrinking to the pushback to the public polling, saying no, this isn't right, don't do this. And they are just full steam ahead. That suggests to me that the ideological rot in mainstream media runs deeper than even I knew. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I do take the time to read the comments, and I always love hearing what you guys have to say. And do hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet.